Hello everyone, my name is Pritesh and I'm the founder of Humans of Tech, and I'm super excited to invite you all to this beautiful space we are having this evening. And we are going to talk about a lot of things about like career in tech and career in DevRel especially, about a lot of things about finance, freelancing, content creation, remote jobs and stuff, right? And the people who are new to Humans of Tech, I would like to give a small introduction to this platform. Okay, so this platform is is a place where you'll be able to listen, to read, and watch inspiring stories of people in tech, obviously to get inspired and also to understand how things work in tech and what are things going behind the scenes of whatever you see on the social media, right? We'll be inviting some amazing people in tech who have something interesting to share about their life, career, or journey, which can add a lot of value to all the listeners and readers of Humans of Tech. In a nutshell, if you are someone who is not sure about their career in tech, or if you are lacking motivation in that job, or if you are struggling in your career or stuff, you this platform and this podcast is for you only. Even if you are a passionate reader, like me, who loves to listen to or read to the stories of people, how they struggle and how they become something whatever they are right now, then again this platform is for you only. All right. So yeah, so we'll be putting a series of podcasts and blogs on our platform. Blogs will be on our website and audio will be on Twitter Spaces, and now we are on Spotify. So Humans of Tech is on Spotify. I will be sharing link to Spotify, Humans of Tech, and also link to Humans of Tech YouTube channel. If you want to subscribe to the channel, you can directly go ahead and subscribe to the channel. So I'm just sharing it in the chat so that you can go ahead and subscribe to our Spotify and our YouTube channel. Yeah, cool. So without waiting any more, let's start the space. So the speaker that we have today is someone who has inspired a lot of individuals in tech. So we have Sumit in the house today, and he'll be sharing a lot of interesting stuff about his life, how he got started with freelancing, how he got into communities, open source, DevRel, and etc. etc. So I would like Sumit to give a quick introduction about himself now.
Okay, hey everyone, welcome to the space. I see a lot of familiar faces in the audience already, so that's always a good sign. Uh, Introduction of mine, I am Sumit Saurav, as you may know. I work as a developer advocate at Novu. Currently, I've been working here since December last year. Prior to that, I have a fair bit of experience in freelancing. I also have a computer science degree. I graduated in 2020 and I started freelancing all the way back in first year or second year, maybe like somewhere around that. And yeah, just looking forward to all the questions Pritesh and all you guys will be asking.
Awesome. Thanks for the quick introduction, Sumit. So my first question would be, how does a life in Sumit, like how does a day in a Sumit's life look like?
Okay. So as you may know, I wake up pretty early in the morning. Last year I used to wake up at 4 a.m. These days it's 5 a.m. and I think like this is a really good point. Like really this for me strikes a balance between waking up early and having time to myself while not sacrificing my social life towards the evening and the night. So currently I wake up at 5ish a.m. and then straight away I hit the gym. So though a lot of people may not know this, but Pritesh and I used to go to the same gym, and by the time I got my workout done, Pritesh would be visiting it. So Pritesh doesn't wake up early. He tried, but for some reason he can't. But I wake up early, go to the gym, come back, shower, and basically, like I plan my day. Like this night, I'll plan my day for tomorrow. So I already know after coming from gym what I have to do in the day, and I have my day structured in Google Calendar. I use a combination of Google Calendar and Obsidian to structure my day. So I already know what I'm going to do. What if like there are 10 tasks and I'm able to finish 10 tasks, that means that that day was successful. Like I have successful and non-successful binaries. So if I'm able to finish all my tasks, it becomes a successful day. If not, then I try to do it better the next day. But uh, uh, morning times are usually reserved for me, so I'm very selfish with morning time. I don't give that time to anyone, not my family, not my friends, no one. It's completely to me. And I use it primarily for studying, tech or something else that I'm currently interested in. Beyond that, I usually devote a couple of, I mean, I have breakfast too. But beyond that, I usually devote a couple of hours to content creation and just having a sense of what's happening on different platforms. And once that is done, that's time for me to join office. So I generally devote like 7 to 8 hours of office. And then towards the evening, I usually head out with my friends to, some place, any place. And then, you know, towards the night, yeah, evening and nights are typically reserved for social time, so friends and things like that. Beyond that, I sleep. That's basically it's quite simple. I read about this. I don't remember what's it called. It's inspired by Benjamin Franklin's how he used to spend his day. So he categorizes his day in two or three sections, and one is reserved for reading, one is reserved for writing and things like that. But I modified it and made it suit my life. So one section of my day is reserved for studying, one section is office, one section is content creation, and the other section is social life and family and friends and all that. So that's basically my day. Quite simple.
All right, but great to know about your schedule. I am not sure this is a normal schedule of a normal human being, because waking up early is not something that everyone does usually. I
I I I
Yeah.
am abnormal. I don't like among all my friends, there are very few people who have a schedule similar to mine. So I guess what you're saying makes sense. But then I feel like if you want to achieve something that most people don't achieve, you have to work the way most people don't work. It's not rocket science. If you're doing what everyone else is doing, you'll get what everyone else is getting. So
Yeah, completely agree with you. We have Francisco in the listeners. He also is another person who wakes up early, is what I know about him.
he
I'm not sure.
he
Yeah.
posts these images, sometimes videos of him running and going on a jog. And his posts were one of the first posts I saw on Twitter when I started out my Twitter journey. That inspired me to put up something like that. So Francesco is indeed a great inspiration, not just for me, but for many others also. And I think he would be a really good guest for your space.
Yeah, he is in my bucket list. I'm just waiting for few more time. All right. So Sumit, I want to know about your childhood now. Can you quickly give us a quick glimpse on your childhood? How was like Sumit as a kid?
Okay. I have been a very rebellious kid all my life. So I generally don't tend to follow a lot of rules. Back in school, I was a good kid in the sense that I would study a couple, like maths really interested me and science really interested me. So I was good at these two, and I used to score good marks in these two subjects. But beyond that, I didn't really care all that much for marks till my eighth class. So from ninth onwards, like in our times, I don't know what happens these days, but in our times, we in our 10th board exams, which is like for people out listening from outside India, 10th boards are really important in Indian kids' journey, and they really decide the track of your career. So for my 10th exam, we used to have a combined percentage, like the report card would show ninth marks and 10th marks, so both those years. And while I when I got in ninth, I really thought to myself that I need to be more serious because I was good at studies. I easily could score marks if I put in more efforts. So I made it a point that I'd study really well and not be. I think that at that time I realized that I am slightly intelligent, a bit more than others. Like I could easily get in the top three, top five students of the class, but I need to be more disciplined in order to achieve my full potential. And I made it a point. I studied really hard, got perfect tens all across in ninth, and pretty much in tenth also. I got, like, if you see my report card, it's just 10, 10, 10 all the way. Just one subject was in just one subject I got 9 out of 10, and that was also due to fever, which happened recently. It's actually quite funny. When I was down with fever last week, it was really bad situation for me because the fever was really intense, 103, 104 kind. And when I was down with fever, the only occurrence of such high fever was my 10th board exams, and that's why I scored 9 out of 10 in one of the subjects. Actually, it's a funny story. When I was in the exam room, I had a small chit with me with my name, my number, my home number, and my address, because I was scared that I would just faint and fall down and nobody would know what to do with me. So I had a chit and brought it with me in the exam room. Beyond that, I once I cleared 10th board, I scored really well, and I had a deal in my family. Like if I score above X percentage of marks, I'll get a phone that I wanted. So I scored way above that, and I got the phone I wanted. But instead of continuing to study hard, I just poked and played around with the phone and tweaked every bit of it. There used to be a custom ROM called Android was pretty new back then, and nobody knew what Android was. I was probably the only person in my school who knew what Android was, what different versions were. So I played around with my phone a lot, installed custom ROMs, went into the world of routing and custom recoveries and playing with CPU frequencies, adding swap RAMs, things like that. Like a 14-year, 15-year kid would do. So this I think is the beginning of me not being normal, if you want to put it like that. And beyond that, I got into college and started freelancing because some of my friends were freelancing, and then I got a little bit of money. And I was like, if I store all this money in my bank account, I'll just spend it. So I needed to do something with it. So I got into finance and learned about mutual funds, markets, little bit of it. And towards the end of it, I was like, okay, freelancing is good, but I need to do something with my career. So I actually wanted to study even more. I wanted to go for a master's degree. I started preparing for it, but there were NRC protests, and then in the subsequent year, COVID hit, so all my plans were shattered. Instead of continuing my education and going for a master's degree, as luck would have it, I moved to a different city and actually went on continuing freelancing. I started with a few friends of mine. We had like all the setup required and wanted to continue, but then COVID hit, so things got in the way, and I ended up where I am today. I
Yeah,
feel like,
I guess we covered a lot, which we are going to cover in detail now. But yeah,
okay,
thanks for giving an overall highlight of your journey till now. All right. Uh, so interesting to know about your childhood, and interesting to know that you were always, a curious kid who loves to explore things, whatever you like, right? So yeah, understood. So you said that after 12th, what was the situation? As in, like, you did math, right? If I'm not
yeah,
wrong, math, and then like as you said, you were into this routing phones and stuff around your mobile phone.
yeah, yeah.
It was pretty clear that you wanted to go into something like computer science, right?
Yeah, even before I got into routing and custom norms and all that, I was pretty clear that I wanted to be I basically, as a kid, I had a notion that if I study computer science, I'll get to a point where I'll be surrounded by computers. Although, I'll have 8, 10 monitors, crazy powerful CPUs and all that. So I had a fascination with computers since very early. Like I was 8, 10 years old. Since then, have had a fascination with computers. And once 12th ended, my career was pretty much sorted. I think everybody knew. People tried to persuade me. Like I come from a family of doctors. I have multiple doctors in my family. So there was a little bit of persuasion from my family members to instead of math choosing biology, but I was like, no, I know what I want in life, and it's computers, and and math is the way to get to what I want. So I continued studying maths, finished 12, got admitted in a college, prepared for IT and failed at it. That's also important, and that's I think is one of the common points that leads to a lot of conversations. So
Yeah.
failed in preparation of IT, joined a private college, and once in college, I immediately realized that the crowd there isn't very, how do I say it, ambitious and are not very serious about what they want in life. So I tend tended to be very reserved in terms of who I interact with, and that's how I got into freelance.
Yeah, we'll come to that. I wanted to know, so after 12th, you prepared for JEE, right? And then unfortunately, things didn't went the way you liked. Then, on what basis you made your choice of your college?
Okay, so in India we have national exams and we have I don't know about now, but back in my day, back when I was preparing, we used to have national exams, and there were various state exams for state level colleges. So I cleared WBJE for West Bengal colleges, and I got a college allotted based on the rank I scored in that. I don't remember the rank; it was pretty bad. So I basically my college isn't wasn't very good. I come from a very humble background, educational, if you want to put it like that.
I see. Understood. So like which in which year you were that you understood that okay, this the people here are not of the mindset that you particularly have, right? And then what was your next step after that when you understood this thing?
Okay, so in can I go in a bit of detail, or is the space limited
Yeah, yeah, you
time-wise?
can go in detail. Yeah.
Okay, so in my first year, I used to live in hostel with other kids from first year, but it like the environment there was not very conducive to studying and you know growing your skills. Basically, I remember watching those NPTEL lectures by IIT professors, and there would be constant noise and all that. So I decided in my second year, I decided to move out of hostel and rent my own apartment. So there were a bunch of my friends. I think me and a few of my friends rented an apartment, and at that point, I and a friend of mine who like I'll tell you the story. So the one of the friends who I rented the apartment with, he had a friend in a different college, and that guy all the way back in his first year itself had bagged a contract of 96,000 rupees, which was like a huge amount for me back then. And he once finished his contract, he once finished once he delivered the project, he went on a short trip with a girlfriend to Andaman and Nicobar Islands, and that news itself really motivated me. Like if he can do it, I can do it too. And that was the turning point in my life, and that triggered me to explore freelancing, see what I'm good at, develop my skills around the what market was demanding, and that's how I got into freelancing basically.
So my question is, what triggered your girlfriend or freelancing?
No, his trip. It was not about girlfriend. His trip, like at that age, no, none of my friends could even imagine going a trip that far out. If you see, we were living in West Bengal, and Andaman Nicobar Islands are pretty far out. So none of us could even imagine going on a trip, and he actually did that. So the news that he had gone to a trip, the girlfriend part was important, but not primarily important. So the news that he had gone on a trip, all funded by the money that he had earned by his own in the first year of our undergrad degrees itself, that really motivated me, and that's how that triggered me to explore freelancing basically.
All right. Okay. So, what was your first step when you understood that okay, this is something interesting and I want to do, but how will you start? How did you got started with it?
Okay, so I had a habit of journaling. I've had a habit of journaling since I was a kid, basically like 10, 11 years old. So I was really good at writing, and I used to write on Quora, the question and answer platform. So when I got to know that, hey, you can deliver projects on the side and make a few bucks, I I immediately wanted to earn. I didn't want to spend times building my skills. I was like, what with whatever knowledge I have, how can I leverage that and turn it into money? Which I think in hindsight is a bad step. If any of the listeners want to get into freelancing, I would suggest them to see what skills are in demand and then develop those skills in themselves. That's how they can earn more. But I was very impatient. I tend to be very impatient. So I was like, no, I can learn things. It'll take like few months of time. I want to convert whatever knowledge I have into money now. So I was good at writing, and the first contract I had was primarily based on like in place of portfolio. I showed them my Quora profile. It used to get decent views. I think it got like 10-15,000 views per week. So that was like a good beginner number. So I got the contract based out of that and then delivered it and got some money. I remember eating like there was a up like slightly expensive cafe near our college, and I visited that first time with my own money. So that's a nice memory that I have.
That's a lovely feeling of spending your own money at a place you always wanted to be, but you never, right? Interesting. So, Sumit, I wanted to understand how you found your first client for this writing thing that you spoke about.
Okay, so for first few clients, I think one of the best ways to get clients as a beginner is leverage your already existing network. my not only my first client, I think first several clients came from my existing network. So I told you about the friend, right, with whom I moved into the apartment. He used to do freelance even before me, and he needed somebody to do something, and that's how I got into the picture, because I knew that he used to do this on the side. I was like, hey, if you want some help, I can help you out. So that's how I got into it. And one interesting story that I can share here is that one of the I don't exactly remember what I was supposed to do, but it had like they had given me a lot of images with text in it, and I was supposed to write it all down in my own language and turn it into beautiful sounding, like, make it pretty basically in terms of literature. And I was like, oh man, these are too many pages. Who will type all this out? And there was an API from Microsoft. I don't remember what it was called. It was like image character recognition sort of thing. So you would give it an image, and it would push out the all the characters in that image. So I used that API and made it some sort of hacky app. And I would supply it images, and it will give me all the text in that image, and I would make slight edits. So what should have been work of a couple of weeks, it got reduced to just a weekend, and both me and my friend were really happy that we managed to do all that in a week. So that's an interesting story, and that's one of the first sparks that ignited this desire of learning development, like being a really good developer in me.
I see. I wanted to ask, when you had your first client or when you got this image recognition wala client, which year was that of your college, if you can
This
remember?
was, I think, second year, because I had moved out of my college hostel, so most likely it was second year, really start of second year.
Okay, you were going to college or you were just staying by yourself?
No, I was going to college. Till third year, I had to go to college because the attendance criteria was really strict. I don't know why Indian colleges do this. They won't teach you and they won't give you time to learn on your own. So I had to go to college, unfortunately, but it turned out pretty fine. So I guess it's not that wrong either.
I see. All right. So second year, Sumit had his first client, and now I want to understand how things, how were the things after that? How you started web development? What was the first thing that you learned? And I remember you said, like, when we had a chat, that you got, just by JavaScript, CSS, HTML only, you got some clients and stuff, right? I remember. Can you throw some light on that?
Yeah. So in my second year, I did a mistake and did not learn development at all. So I was getting decent money out of just writing, purely writing, nothing else. So I was like, let's continue down this path and see how it goes. And because I had some money coming in, then got into finance because I wanted to learn how to manage money, how to basically my fear was that if all this money stays in my bank account, I'll just spend it on partying and restaurants and things like that. So I needed to be more prudent, and instead of studying development, I started studying finance and money management and stock markets and mutual funds and all that. I actually started investing since in my second year itself. And towards the end of third year, I realized that freelancing is not something that I want to do right now, and I wanted to study, go for higher education. But so third year and fourth year was spent entirely on studying computer science and all the fundamentals. I got good at programming and all the fundamentals, like computers. I'm sorry, like operating systems and computer networks and all that. I got really, really good at that. In fact, in my final year, we used to have like grand viva, in which you would be asked, like all the students were asked questions from all the subjects, and I scored really, really good. Like I think in computer networks, I told the professor was slightly kinder to us, and he asked us which chapter have you studied, and I told him you can ask me anything you want in computer networks, and he asked me questions from literally every chapter, and I answered it basically perfectly. So he was really impressed. He also complimented me, and I was really confident about my the exam. Like even after graduation, you are supposed to give an exam for qualifying for higher education institutes, but I told you, due to NRC protests, those exams were cancelled. Like that exam was not cancelled, our university exams were cancelled, and then it got rescheduled 10 days before the entrance exam. So I could not study for entrance exam. Like the last mile studying, the revision part of it was not done. So I came back home, and that's when I started learning HTML. I knew little bit of HTML because I'd done Android development and Flutter in the in the last few years. But that's when I actually started web development, and I got good at HTML and CSS fairly quickly, and JavaScript was something that I used to be really scared of back in the starting days. But I, with practice, I got good at that also. And then I tried my hand at freelancing. And the first client I got, I think they were a VC firm and they needed a landing page, and it didn't require any fancy technology. It was just HTML, CSS, JavaScript. JavaScript also was very uh, scantily needed just for some animation stuff. It was primarily just HTML, CSS, and then deploying it on the internet on the domain that they had purchased. So I did all that and made like, I think it was very little money. I don't exactly remember. It was several thousands of rupees for just like 3-4 hours of work. So it was again pretty. It felt pretty nice because in writing you have to, like, the work is easy, but you have, it takes a lot of time for you to write things in order to get paid. But in development you can charge more. So that's how I felt like instead of writing, I should actually learn development. So at the end of my graduation, I studied web development. I was good with computer science subjects and programming in C and Java, but the actual web development journey started after I graduated.
I want to break down your entire answer that you said into few pieces. First question is, when did you thought that, okay, like what interests you, like you said you got into finance by the end of the second year or somewhere,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
how did you what was the thing that made you learn about finance and stuff?
Okay, so the reason why I got into finance, I told you, I had some money in my bank account due to my freelancing with my writing skills, and I wanted to have that money in a place where I would not be able to spend it easily, because had it been in my bank account, I would just spend it all. And so I decided to invest and learn investing. So that's how I got into finance. I actually, in my third year, me and that very friend that got me into freelancing, we were preparing for MBA. We had books and the coaching material and everything in my home, in our apartment. And I actually devoted, I think, 1 or 2 weeks to just get, because I was good at finance. I was like, okay, computer science is not that interesting for me because, college teachers made it seem very dry and uninteresting. So I was like, maybe computer science is not for me, and I maybe finance is my calling. So, and I was anyway good at finance, so I was like, let's prepare for MBA, and I'll do MBA in finance and just end up at an investment bank or something. But one other friend of mine had his uncle had a coaching institute, and they needed volunteers for these gate classes, and I volunteered and went to. They had a ceremony there, so I went there, and one of the toppers' speech really motivated me, and I thought like maybe I should give computer science a second shot. Maybe I like it because I have been fascinated with computers all through my childhood. So like, let's give it a second chance. If I don't like it, I anyway have the option of going continuing in the finance path. So I got back home and I started studying, I think, three subjects in parallel: computer networks, operating systems, and database. And I just fell in love with computer science at that point in time. And it's that day, and it is today. I'm still madly in love with computer science.
So what you said you started learning about finance and stuff, right? So what resources you used to use? Is it like YouTube, or at that point of time? I'm not sure what
No,
was.
no, no, no. There were various blogs. I've forgotten almost all of these blogs, but there were various blogs, and I found a couple of courses also. That's how I got into that's how I learned the basics of it. But beyond that, it was just me experimenting and trying different strategies. If any of you venture into the world of finance, there are a lot of strategies out there. Some would call it DAO strategies, some would call it like there is if you like, I don't want to get into the topics of finance, but there are various strategies that you can try out. So I would try out with little sums of money, and the things that worked, I would then put in a lot of money in that strategy. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, but all the time I had enough money to cover my extracurricular expenses, if you want to call it that.
I see, and still right now also, since you have money, you also do this trading stuff. And is it
I
still like that passion for finance and making money out of
it
that?
it interests me a lot even today. Like if I'm not doing anything tech related, I'm most likely somewhere in the finance world, but I don't do day-to-day trading. So I won't call myself a trader. I mostly do value investing. Like that's also one of the strategies, value investing. You can Google it out in order to learn more. So these days I'm more into that. I recently only bought 100 stocks of some company. I can't name the company. I bought 100 stocks of that company, and I already was invested in that very company. So I have in my portfolio, I think, if you count mutual funds also, I have like 15, 16 entities total. But beyond that, I feel like I don't get enough time to be able to track what's happening in all these companies. So I mostly stay limited to very good companies, even at the cost of losing out slightly higher returns because I don't have time to track all that.
Interesting. I'll call you after this space for understanding this stuff because even I am, struggling with the managing my own money now. Again, as
I
you
can
say,
I can give a small tip here.
yeah.
It's fairly simple. So, if for a no nonsense investor, if you know nothing about stock market, especially if you're Indian, all you need to do is find a Nifty index fund that has a what's it called? They charge some amount. It's called exit fee. Yeah. So find a mutual fund that has find a Nifty index fund that has a small exit fee, very small, like the smallest you can find, and just blindly invest a fixed amount of money. So imagine if your salary is I don't know 50,000 rupees and your expenses are 35,000 rupees, so you're essentially left with 15,000 rupees, and say 5,000 rupees still you want to keep for something, and you are essentially left with 10,000 rupees for investments. So what I would suggest is just blindly put 10,000 rupees every month periodically for however long you want. That I think is the best strategy to get started with, and beyond that you'll automatically learn on your own. So if you want to start out, the best strategy that I personally have found, used, and I recommend this to almost everyone everyone who lets me speak is just buy a Nifty index fund and buy it periodically. Start an SIP or something, just buy it periodically and sit on it. In COVID times, the I actually made 40% returns just on Nifty index. So it can be pretty good, especially in crisis times.
Interesting. I'll surely do that. I do have some mutual funds, but again, uh, I'll try to learn more about that. Cool. So we are coming back to Sumit's story now. Let's discuss about your life after graduation, right? So you said you started learning web development, and then you got some clients and stuff, right? I wanted to
Yeah,
know more about that. Can you detail out that part of your life?
sure, sure. So when I was at my home essentially, and learning web development, so one of my cousins was also studying computer science, and it was his year of graduation, and he asked me like how I can get into freelancing because he was placed in a company and he wanted to have some additional income flowing on the side. So I was like, okay, I can help you. So I went to his place. He lived in Bhopal in Madhya Pradesh at that point in time, and I went there and I actually got into touch with a couple of his friends who are now my friends, and we decided to have a some sort of an agency of ourselves, and that's how it rolled. So I rented a place there. I had an informal agency of sorts, so I would get clients, I would delegate the work to two, three people, and the money that I would receive would be distributed among us all, and it worked pretty well for us. I made a lot of money, and we actually had gone and finalized an office for ourselves. It was a really nice office, like with a view of lake and everything. If any of you have been to Bhopal, you know it's a really pretty and serene place. So we finalized an office, and the very next day, COVID hit. So like the second wave came, and it was terrible. So we panicked, and all of us decided to, fly back home. So I landed up in home again, and I was like, no, this time I need to do something seriously. So I started learning again. Like backend development, I didn't know at that point in time, and JavaScript also I didn't know that well. So I discovered about 100 devs at that point in time. You should Google it out. If anyone is in the journey of learning web development, I think everyone should check out 100 devs. It's called 100 DEVs, 100 devs. And I basically used to watch classes, solve assignments, and simultaneously started creating content because it was suggested randomly in a Discord channel. So like maybe this content creation thing would work. So that's how I got into Twitter and web development and all the things.
All right. So you said that after COVID hit, you all came back to your own places. But what happened to that rented apartment? What did you do of that? And
No, no. So we had finalized it, and we were about to pay the token money and
I
then
see.
rent it out. So luckily we like that very evening, a few people, all of us knew, unfortunately died due to COVID. So suddenly, everyone started panicking, and all of us started getting a lot of calls from our homes. So we were like, let's put this plan on hold and let's just go back home. And once COVID passes, we'll see what to do.
Understood. So even after you came back, any which ways this thing can be done remotely also, right? Whatever guys were planning.
Yeah, it could be, but the network wasn't as good because some of my friends didn't have Wi-Fi at the home, and mobile connection was not really that good. And even us, I think when I got few of the clients that I got while in Bhopal, they needed a particular technology. Like one of the clients needed the me to be good at Chakra UI, and I did not know what Chakra UI meant at that point in time. And similarly, I had a couple of other stories also in which the clients demanded us to be experts of XYZ technology, and we were not that good. So I took this decision that maybe we should devote a couple of months just honing our skills and making sure that whatever clients we land from now on, we will be able to deliver the results in the way they want. So that's that's why I decided let's devote a couple of months just skilling ourselves up, and then we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, that completely makes sense. Glad you took that decision, else you would be in the loop of earning only, right? Interesting. So can brief more about your how you got started with content creation, right? How it happened, who told you to start and stuff.
Okay, so like I said, I started with 100 devs to learn about web development and everything. And one of like in 100 devs is a wonderful community. I think one of the best communities that I'm blessed to be a part of is 100 devs community. And one of the suggestions I got, like the classes were about to begin a couple of weeks, and one of the suggestions I got was just write articles on the sites. That way you will 6 months down the line you will be able to see your own journey, and also articles would give you excuse me, articles would give you some sort of proof of work. I didn't know what proof of work meant, but I was like, okay, it sounds like a nice advice, and what harm is in writing articles? I was good at writing anyway, so I was like, maybe I'll write 1 2 articles a week. But then I used to be slightly active on Twitter, and I saw a lot of accounts. Like I think Saurav is in the audience. I saw his account. Another one was Pratham. These guys motivated me a lot, and I was like, instead of articles, why not create tweets? Because tweets tended to, get a lot of likes, and I was blind for likes back then, which again is a mistake, looking in hindsight. So I was like, maybe drop the article plan and just create on Twitter itself. But I was like, I'm not sure because I had a new account. I had basically no followers. So I was like, maybe it won't work. How would I know? So I decided eventually that I'll create content on both platforms. For articles also, I chose I think Hashnode, and for smaller form of content, I used to write on Twitter. But then Twitter took off, so I forgot Hashnode existed.
I see. Short form content is like interesting for for people to learn and also stuff, right? Uh, all right. And again, creating a short form content is comparatively little difficult because you have to cover a lot of things in small, uh, limited text characters, right? So, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But it instead of the limited number of characters being an issue, I had a different issue, which was shelf life of content. Say, I wrote an article, that article would be visible to a lot of people for 2 3 weeks easily. But on Twitter, if I wrote a thread, and even if it was a good thread, people would forget it existed in 2 days, in just 2 days. Like even on the second, it won't get that much traction. So that was one of the issues I encountered initially.
Yeah, that is there in you have to keep posting and forget about the number of hours you spent to write that particular tweet which got just 20 likes.
Yeah, I actually remember I wrote this really good thread, good by my standards, what I considered good. Really good thread. I spent like 4 hours on it, and it got 10 likes in 6 hours. And I was so heartbroken that day. I contacted a few of my Twitter friends, and they were like, "No, it happens. It doesn't matter if the like likes." And at that point, I realized that likes is not a good metric to track your own worthiness. We tend to attach our own worthiness in terms of how many likes we are getting. But at that point in time, I was like, no, likes don't mean a lot. And from then onwards, I started uh, focusing more on content that made me an authority figure in my niche. But these days, again stepped into the habit of chasing likes. But maybe once I come after the break, I'll tweak my strategy a bit.
I see. Understood. So can you so for says 100 devs went for 100 days, right? If I'm not wrong.
No, no.
And no?
It no, no,
Is
it went
that
for several months. 100 devs was 100 developers. So the instructor Leon Noel, if you know them, They were like, I will train 100 developers and get them jobs. But instead of 100, we were, I think, 3, 400. So today it's called, I think, 1,000 devs because it's now the goal is now to train 1,000 developers.
Mm-hmm. Understood. So the you were learning and you were sharing your stuff on Twitter during that time, is it?
Yeah. That was basically my routine. I would wake up, and that's how I got into waking up really early. Like in my college, also, I used to wake up really early, but consistently, I think 100 days pushed me to wake up really early because the live classes happened in US time, I think at 6 p.m. Pacific time, and in Indian Standard Time, it was 4:30 a.m. So I had to get up at 4 a.m. if I wanted to catch live classes and ask questions. Otherwise, I would just have to go through recorded lessons, and I wouldn't be able to ask questions. And there was no chat GPT back then. So I was like, no, I want this ability, this I want to have this facility to ask live questions, and that's how I got started. I woke up early, first things in the day. First thing in the day was class itself. I would get done with the classes, and then the remaining of the day I had for freelance clients, for sharing my content, and for practicing what I'd learned in the class. And this schedule went on for several months, and during that time only I built my profile. I think I got my 0 to 10,000 follower journey was during these months only.
Interesting. So you kept on doing this, or there was something going behind the scenes along with this thing?
No, so towards the end of I think 4 or 5 months, I started getting approached by companies. Some of them wanted just for promotion, some of them wanted to hire me as a part-time contractor, and one of the companies, excuse me, one of the companies reached out to me, I think, and they wanted to hire somebody for community manager position, if I'm not wrong. I don't exactly remember what the role was, but it was some sort of community role. And I was like, okay. So I interviewed there, got in there, and realized that the role hadn't been defined very clearly. So the role had one name and it had one job description, but the actual what they wanted me to do was entirely different from what they had listed out. So I was like, this is not gonna work. So I think in less than a month I resigned from that company. I was like, "No, okay, I'll see what I have to do." So and it was very draining mentally because I was supposed to do entirely different from what I thought I would be doing. So I took a small vacation of a couple of weeks, went to a beachy place with oceans, and then came back and continued my journey of content creation.
Understood. So this client or this job opportunity, was it a job opportunity, full-time one?
Yeah, it was like I had to devote the hours that I had to devote were equivalent to a full-time job. So
I see. Understood. And this people approached you on your Twitter, right?
yeah, yeah. Even other than this, I think I had 2, 3 other companies reach out to me. One was a Web3 firm that had a really good salary.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the highest salary that I've been offered till date was that Web3 company.
And you didn't took that?
No, I did not. Like I like some parts of Web3, but I felt like my knowledge wasn't good enough for me to continue working in Web3. So I was like, let's stick with React and JavaScript and find something here.
Okay, makes sense. Because after you go inside that, and if what if you don't like, right?
Yeah,
That
that
is
was one of my concerns. Like if I start out with like, and this was going to be my first job because I didn't sit for placements in my college. So like if I start out with Web3 and for some reason I don't like it or this doesn't work for me, what will I do then? So it was like a difficult decision saying no to all that money. It was a really good amount of money, but somehow I took that hard decision and stuck with React and JavaScript.
yeah, that completely makes sense. So I wanted to ask now, this 100 devs was a Discord community, right? And I guess this is the first time you been into some Discord community and you understood how Discord works and how community works, right?
No, so I even before I don't remember if it was before 100s or during 100s, but I was also a part of 4C community by Francesco, who was here few minutes ago. So I was a part of that community, and in addition to 4C, I was also a part of Eddie Hub, but by Eddie Jauda, and a couple of other communities on Twitter itself. So communities are something that I've been doing on the sides for a while, but 100 Desk was one community that really highlighted the importance of inclusive, making sure that people feel included in a community and welcome, and they have a path that they can follow. So the good parts of community were highlighted by the 100 Desk community. Not to say that other communities were bad in any sense, but I had the most fun in the 100 Desk community because I was also learning a lot and I felt like I was expanding my horizon. So maybe that made me biased, but it was one of the most amazing communities that I have had the blessing of being a part of.
And you got introduced to all these communities that you named via Twitter only, right?
Yeah, via Twitter, via my own exploration and research and all. Like with 4C, I got into it because I knew Francesco on Twitter. I met him on Twitter, and I got to know that he has a community. He actually has two communities. One is 4C, one is I think Web3, something related to Web3. And I was like, maybe see at that point I hadn't made sure that I would just stick with React and JavaScript and find something in Web 2 because I was weighing the pros and cons of both of those things. So I was like, let's have some presence in Web 3 space and let's have some presence in Web 2 space, and I'll decide depending on the what happens. So I became a part and became a moderator of both these communities. In addition to that, I was also a part of I still am a part of AD Hub and 100 and several other communities now. Like my Discord is a lot of communities right now. I'm not even able to keep track of all the communities, which is a good problem to have, but I need to do something about it.
All right. So I wanted to ask that what advice would you like to give, like why one should join this community and what value they will get out of it?
I don't think anyone should look to join community. If like people do that, obviously, but in my opinion, and this may be controversial, I think if community happens organically and naturally for you, then you are a good fit for community. You would see like if you are say learning, I don't know, say you're learning Node and you're struggling with it, you'll go to Google and try to find answers around what you're struggling with, and some of the links that present themselves on Google will lead to a community, and if you then go to the community and like hanging out with people there, like helping others there, then I think you can explore communities a bit more. But I don't think anyone should just look and find communities that they want to be a part of it. Obviously go ahead and try and see if it fits you, but I think it should be natural.
Okay, different opinions, interesting. So this is the first time someone has answered this in this way. Because
Normal.
generally,
I told you I'm abnormal in the beginning of this place itself. So you can't expect normal responses from me.
okay, let's not generalize Sumit's answers because they are always different like him. All right, cool. So you got into communities and stuff, and then how did Novu happen to you? Is the question everyone wants to listen
Okay.
now.
I have been wanting to publish a blog post around it for months now, and it's been a question that I have been asked repeatedly for months. So
Yeah,
maybe
I
I'll do
want
that.
you to go from scratch, like how it, what
Okay, so
was,
I
yeah.
told you about the vacation I took after resigning in less than a month. So I was on the vacation, and during that vacation, DevRel Con Prague happened, and my Twitter timeline was filled with images of people just having fun in DevRel Con. And in one of the images, I saw that Novu needs a senior developer advocate, and I was like, I have a list of companies that I think are really good companies, and Novu was one of the companies that existed in that list already. So I was like, okay, they are looking for a developer advocate role. Let's see uh, what exactly are the qualities that they are looking for. Because even in a DevRel position, like DevRel role can be completely different. Two people will be called developer advocates in two different companies, but will have entirely different work because it's a very diverse field, which I now know. So back then, I thought like maybe they need if they need the qualities that I already have, maybe I'll give it a shot. If they don't, I'll just continue doing what I'm doing. So I was like, let's find somebody who is there, and I was like, no, sorry. So I saw this image of DevRelCon Prague, and I was like, they need a developer advocate, and this stood out as a point. I was on vacation, so I didn't pursue this. Unfortunately, I should have, but I didn't pursue this. Came back to my place, and I was like, let's actually find a couple of companies. And in that process, I was talking to Saurav, who incidentally was also here a few minutes ago, and he and I got into discussion really late at night. I think 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. in the night, and we discussed various companies, one of which was Novu. And I was surprised that he also knew about Novu. And we discussed the various aspects of what appeared to be the culture of Novu. And we actually have our handbook open. So if you want to know about Novu more, you can just Google Novu handbook and results would come up and you will see what the culture is like for yourself. But I read the handbook back then. I was like, okay, this company looks really good. And I was like, how do I get my way in? So one of the ways I saw that had worked for people I knew was just straight up sending a cold DM. So I found out the founders. I was active in the community. I joined the Novu community, so I knew a few people who worked there. So I messaged the founder of Novu, like, hey, I saw that you have a role open for senior DevRel, and I would love to have a call and discuss how it goes. So he was kind enough to invite me to a call, and we discussed. But the conclusion was that they needed a senior developer advocate, and to them, I seemed a fit for junior or mid-level role at best. So like, now what? So they told me that we have a role open for growth engineer and in growth engineering department. So I would work with Nevo. I think some of you may know him. He was my manager for 2 months. And once a senior developer advocate is hired, then they would be able to know if they need a junior developer advocate or not. So I was like, okay, let's continue with because things were happening. I was not doing anything. They told me that developer advocate in my capacity, in my role, was not needed back then, and they needed a senior developer to sort of take a look at the development department at Novo, and then decide if they needed to hire somebody or not. But meanwhile, I could work for as a growth engineer, and also I did not know backend at that point, and the CEO, the founder of Novo, Tomer, told me that Neo will teach you backend. You can ask him questions and all that. And once you've completed 2 3 months, then we can interview again. If you want to continue as a growth engineer full time, you can continue in that role. If a developer advocate is hired at that point and they feel that we need a DevRel, then you will be interviewed for that role again. So like okay, and that's how it went. I think I spent a couple of months in the growth engineering department. It was some parts of it were a lot of fun, some parts were just not a lot of fun. And towards the end of my contract, the Prosper, who is now my manager, who leads DevRel at Novu, he was hired, and they decided that they needed a developer advocate. So I was interviewed, and in my interview, I had I think 2 or 3 rounds of interview. Not I won't exactly call it an interview. It was more of an introductory call because they knew my abilities by then. So I was like, they were like, okay, we know who you are, we know what you can do. And it was basically an introduction with Prosper, and Prosper then gave me an assessment document. And in that document, it was the assessment period was of 2 weeks, and I was assessed on various qualities in communities, in development, and various sort of things in content creation. And I was assigned a few tasks, and I cleared them, and that's how I got in.
Hmm. So DevRel is something booming right now. I'm not saying in terms of job, but I've seen people having a lot of misconceptions and a lot of they say like DevRel is fun. Some people say DevRel is fun. They just need to go to conferences and stuff. I want you to break down this role into pieces to make people understand what exactly it is.
I I also felt the same way. All across Twitter, people tend to post images when they go on conferences. So it has become a notion that all developers do is just go to conferences and talk to people, and that's what they get paid for. But just think for yourself, nobody would pay you money just to go to conferences, right? So there's a lot more to it. And once I joined in, I realized that DevRel is a very vast space. There are some roles which will be called developer advocates, where the role is purely to create content and focus on the marketing side of things. And there are some roles where the the job actually is called developer advocate, but instead of leaning towards marketing, it's entirely towards developer experience and creating proof of concepts, demo apps, guides, things like that. And in some companies, it's a mix of the two. So you'll have to research for your own self. If you want to become a developer advocate, you'll have to research on your own and see which side of DevRel aligns with your skill set and your interests, and then find out companies that are hiring with those skills in mind. It's a wrong notion that people only need to go to conferences and talk to people. Conferences do happen, and it is a part of DevRel's job description to go to conferences to spread the word about your company, your product, the things that you're doing, the problems that you're solving. But it's much more than just conferences.
Yeah, and I also wanted to ask you like what is your role right now at Novu? What is your day-to-day activity that you do in your job role right now?
Okay, so in my case, we have a sync meet of DevX department. We call it DevX department internally. It's called Developer Experience. We have a sync meet on Monday, and on Mondays we sort of the entire all the people in the DevX department, they go through what they did last week and what they will be doing this week. So that's Monday, and beyond that, in terms of what I actually do at Novo, it changes dramatically. Like I told you, some parts of DevRel strictly focus on marketing, some parts of it strictly focus on proof of concept or demo apps, and some are mix of the two. So Novo I would place in the mix of the two category, because we have had chances of speaking in various conferences, and some of the members of the developer advocacy team here at Novu has spoken in conferences. I unfortunately couldn't join. There have been two conferences that I missed due to visa, which have happened after I have joined Novu. But in future, towards the end of this year, maybe next year, I'll start public speaking as well. So in at Novu, we have a mix of two. So there are times when all I do is code all through the week. There are times when all I do is just focus on content creation and articles and demos and guides and stuff like that. But it's a mix of the two.
Yeah. So it's a mix of two, as in you have to code and you have to do some marketing and writing stuff along with your job, right? During
No,
that
so
particular.
marketing side of things are taken care of by the growth department itself. So we don't do marketing per se, but we do get numbers that we call it KPIs, key performance indicators. We tend to optimize content around those numbers, but I majorly lean towards developer experience side of things. So I would focus more on documentation, what parts of it are lacking, how we can make documentation better, and what like we have quick starts in multiple languages: React, Go, Vue, PHP, Rust. You name a language, we have either a quick start or a SDK there. And if you want to check out, you can, you should actually. So my role primarily is to ensure that the developers who come to our platform to use Novu, their experience is better. So I tend to work more on that side of things instead of working on marketing.
Okay, okay, understood. So there is this interesting question that a lot of people have been asking on Twitter, that how would one know that they want to do this developer relation thing, or they want to go into software engineering and stuff? How would one, diversify their interests?
Uh, I think some people intrinsically know that this is what they want to do, but for some people, they first decide, okay, maybe software engineering is what I want to do, maybe DevRel is something that I want to do, and then they, tailor their profile around that role. So, depending on who you are as a person, I think the path that you're trying to frame would differ from person to person. But in my case, some like a lot of it already aligned with what I was doing. I was already doing content creation. I was already good at written articles in the past, not with a product in mind, but I was good at that, and I showcased in my assessment days. So I felt very I felt like a lot of job description of Daryl naturally existed in me even before I knew that this role existed. So I think I sort of landed here organically. But some people I know who work as a developer advocates, they have tailored their profile around what is required. So depending on who you are as a person, you can pick either of these two paths.
Interesting. So under the hood, everyone knows that what they want and what they want to do. They're just confused by the advices given by people on internet. So listen to your own soul, understand what you want, and then just go ahead with whatever
And
you.
and explore a lot. In your early days in your career, explore almost everything that you want. If it interests you even one bit, just go ahead and read about it as much as you can. Watch videos, talk to people who work in that industry, that role, and then you'll be able to make up your mind whether you want to do it or not.
Okay, okay, that makes sense. So I wanted to ask, how was your Hacktoberfest? This is the first time you had your Hacktoberfest as you were in Novu, right? So what was the experience as a DevRel during the Hacktoberfest?
It was insane. Like when October started, I remember waking up on 1st October and I got a message from Prosper, my manager, and the message read, and I quote, "The madness has started." And at that point, I didn't really understand the gravity of that sentence, but towards the end of 1st October itself, I was like, okay, this is madness. Nothing else can be, it can't be called anything else. And the experience of Hacktoberfest was very intense. We had a lot of PRs coming in, some good, some bad, some was just straight up ChatGPT generated PRs just for getting those green squares. But the parts of it that I liked was were one, helping out people. and seeing, for example, I would give feedback for example, if somebody wrote not so good comment message, and I would tell them like, hey, you need to write better comment messages. These are some of the resources that you can take a look. And I would see that the next PR that they raised, they had taken care of all those points. So it was like very, I don't know exactly which emotion I felt, but it was very heartwarming to see what I was giving. Because back in my days when I started open source, I didn't have the opportunity of learning directly from the maintainers. But this time around, I was able to give back to the community some resources. I did my, I played my small part in that, and it was really heartwarming to see my feedback being, incorporated in what they were doing. The bad parts of there were no bad parts as such, but I think it tends to be very intense. There's a huge volume of influx of new PRs, which is sometimes difficult to handle, especially because people want their PRs to be merged in like 3-4 minutes, and it's really hard because there are so many PRs, and you're supposed to go to all of them and just check that they are not violating any good practices. They are not trying to push in just some random stuff. So it takes time, but people expect things to happen really fast. So that I think is somewhat challenging, but overall, it's a lot of fun. It's very intense. It's very tiring, but it is a lot of fun. No doubts about that.
Yeah, yeah. Oktoberfest is something that people are wait. I don't know why people are waiting for Oktoberfest to contribute to open source, because they are always people can do it anyways, anytime, right?
Yeah, and in fact, if you want to, if like there are motives behind contributing to open source also. Like some people just want to contribute to open source because they want to showcase to a potential employer that they have contributed to XYZ technology and that they are good at it. But some people use open source as a networking tool. And I think if you're contributing to open source with networking in mind, then Hacktoberfest may not be the best time to contribute, because all the maintainers and all the industry leaders that you would want to develop your network with, they would be super busy at that point in time. So I think if you want networking out of if the idea behind contributing to open source for you is expanding your network, then Hacktoberfest may not be the best time of the year. I mean, I can be wrong. I'm saying this just speculatively. This is just speculation from my end. But I think if you participate in open source beyond just the month of October, that can potentially be yielding better results for you in terms of networking.
Yeah, it's a really interesting take, Sumit. Like hardly someone had must be thought about this. Even this is something that I heard for the first time, that if you want to do networking via open source, then Hacktoberfest might not. People might think this is the best time because a lot of people will be available, but they don't understand. A lot of people will be busy at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Doing other stuff.
the the bandwidth of all the maintainers is really low, because in addition to the regular office work, they are now supposed to handle all this huge influx of PRs and issues and everything happening on their GitHub repositories. They are supposed to handle in addition to their regular day-to-day office work. So the bandwidth is really low. I felt it in my own life last month, because even on weekends, I would be merging PRs. Even on weekends, I would be answering DMs. And one other practice that I want to highlight: do not DM maintainers. Like there is silver lining to it, but as long as it's possible, just ask questions in a public space, so that helps the maintainer in two ways. One, they feel that if they answer your question in a public forum, or maybe in GitHub discussions, that other people who are facing similar issues will also go through it and rectify their own problems. So don't DM maintainers, just ask them in a public space. That way you can help ease in the load, basically.
Yeah, so every Oktoberfest community must be having Discord, and in Discord they have their this help forum, right?
Yeah,
So there are people are super active there. They'll give you answers. You just, even if you read, you'll get your answer there also. Is what I've
yeah.
seen now, right?
And just go through the contribution guide. Like all the good projects will have a contribution guide. They will already mention everything that you need to know. So you won't even like sometimes what the question that you wanted to ask will already get answered automatically if you just go through the contribution guide diligently.
Yeah, yeah, true. Agree with you. So this is the question that I have in my bucket list, but you can choose to answer it in your way. That you said DevRel is not specific to a company, right? It sometimes it is something different in different companies. So how can one an individual can choose at what company's DevRel role is for them or not? How to choose companies for a developer relation job?
That's a really good question. I wish I knew about it. I knew how to think about it when I was looking for a role. But if you want to know what if a particular company's DevRel profile is for you or not, the best possible way that I could think of right now is just identifying what you're naturally good at. There are parts of my job that I feel so natural at that I don't even feel I'm working when I'm doing those parts of the job. So if you somehow are able to find a company that lists in its job description the things that you want to do anyway, like even if you're not getting paid, if you just had time, you do that anyway, that I think is a perfect match. But as life is, it's not perfect all the time. So you'll have to find some sort of balance. But two of the best tools that you can use to know if a developer profile aligns with what you who you are as a person or not is just going through their job description, and during the interviews time, you can ask them, what is my ideal day going to look like in your view? And you will most likely be interviewing with people from your own department. So they will give you a really good picture of what your day is supposed to be like once you join the company. And you'll be able to have a good idea, like this is what I'm supposed to do. And if you want to do that, then go ahead and join the company. If you don't, then maybe look for some other role.
Yeah, totally makes sense. And this is super crucial because this is this is will be a very big decision of your life and your career. So you have to be wise while like you have to think a lot on this, right?
Yeah, and one other tip that I would like to give people is always take the aspect of culture when you're deciding when to join a company or not, because it doesn't seem like a lot. If most people judge a company, especially in their first role, most people make the mistake of judging a role in a company just by how much money they're getting paid. And money is good, but that's just one part of it. Culture, I think, plays a significant part. People, especially beginners, I also made the same mistake early in my journey. People tend to just overlook culture completely. I did the mistake, and I would suggest you learn from my mistake. I recently made a tweet that said, "Pay attracts, culture retains," and that's so true. Like you could feel attracted to a company that's paying good in your terms, but if the culture is not good, you would, believe me, you will join the company and you're like, okay, this is not working for me, I need to switch, and you'll want to switch as quickly as possible. So don't make that mistake. Instead, just hold on and research about culture at the company. Maybe talk to a couple of people who already work there, and have basically try to gauge what the culture of the company is like. And once you join a company, even if the pay is not that good, if the culture is really good, you would not want to leave it. That's my experience, honestly.
Yeah, yeah, true. It could be anything. It's not just DevRel. Any company, if you are joining, pay something that attracts to you in an initial level, right? Because
Yeah.
that's what you see. But if you see long term, you have to stay there. There is your mental health. There is a lot of other things that will be going around with the job. So you have to think before you join, right? Interesting. Thanks for that answer, Sumit. Now this is my personal question that I have since long for all the
Okay.
DevRels, and I have this. I asked these questions to all the
Why,
DevRels that I
why,
have.
why am I feeling scared now?
It's nothing special, but this is something that it always questions me when I think about a DevRel job role. The question is, how do you see the growth of a developer? This DevRel person like, because in software engineering, what you see is you see a number, a variety of hierarchies, right?
Okay.
It's a developer, senior developer, then there is senior developer manager, and it just goes on to like various levels. How does it go in DevRel, and how do you see the future of DevRel?
This again is such a wonderful question. I think you're listing out questions that I wish I knew when I started my journey. But in terms of career progression, we have parallel roles in developer advocacy as well. So you join typically as a junior developer advocate, spend maybe 1 year, 2 year in that role, and then get promoted to senior developer advocate. And within different companies, there are different parameters. But one, I think, if I average out all the parameters, there is something called as individual contributors level. So within this within one role, you have different IC bands. So in junior developer role, you'll have typically individual contributor one, and then move to two and three. And if they in within the company, if they have a rule of promoting from if you pass from IC3 to IC4, then that becomes a senior developer role. And then even at the executive level, we have like it differs from companies to companies and the nature of the product that the companies are producing. But in some companies, it becomes very important to have a executive level position open for a developer advocacy team, the leader of the DevRel team. In some companies, it's not, they're not very focused on developer advocacy, and it's closely clubbed with either marketing or engineering, depending on which side the DevRel efforts lean on. But if you want to know more about how career progression works in DevRel, it differs a lot from company to company, just like the role of developer advocates. But there is a very good article. I forgot who the author was, but you can Google out climbing the DevRel ladder, something like that. It's climbing the ladder part is there, I know, but either it's climbing the ladder in developer advocacy or climbing the ladder in as a developer advocate, something like that. You can Google out articles and you'll see. And even one other tool that you can use to see the career progression is just see job postings in DevRel. So you'd have some roles that are for junior developer advocates, some roles that are for senior developer advocates. And in the difference of job descriptions there, you'll be able to notice what a junior developer advocate is supposed to do and what one is supposed to do when they become a senior developer. Decide for your own self.
Okay, interesting answer, Sumit. So every person has some different things to share about this particular question, and I heard something different today for for the same question I
You-
asked.
are you basically trying to tell me that I'm abnormal with fancy sounding words?
Now I guess I have enough answers on that. That I won't say abnormal. I will say different. So
That
yeah,
works.
different perception, different people. So
I
every,
I think that irrespective of what the question is, if you have a question about anything related to developer advocacy, and if you ask two different developer advocates, you will get two different answers just because of how diverse this field is.
exactly. That's again a thing to note to all the people who wanted to get into
I
this.
can tweet this actually.
Yeah, you can tweet this. So I'm just giving you some ideas to tweet on. All right. So you've been into this remote job since how long?
Since forever, like if you consider freelancing gigs as jobs, since I've always worked remotely, I've never set foot in any office. Like I've set foot in offices, but not as an employee. So I've
Mm,
been
yeah.
working remotely all my life.
You never worked in any Indian company, right?
Yeah, some of my friends work in Indian companies and they are fully remote. They don't have offices anywhere. And people think, I also used to think that remote jobs came into picture only after COVID, but it's a wrong perception. I now know people who have been working remotely for 10 years. One guy was working for 19 years completely
Oh,
remotely. So it's not a new phenomenon at all. It's definitely has gotten a serious push thanks to COVID and people noticing that work can be done in an async and remote fashion. But it's not that remote jobs didn't exist pre-COVID.
yeah, true. So because like in COVID, people would tend to know that okay, something like this also exists. Especially in India, people were not used to this culture, right?
Yeah.
Even the companies were not comfortable with this type of culture. They always are skeptical about their employees working or not. So it is like that. But I want to know from you, since you have been working from home all the time, do you miss working from office? How's your experience working till now?
I don't miss it because I've never had the experience of working from office, but based on what I've seen, like in my close circle of friends, I think 90% of our remote workers only, and there are like two, three people who work, in a physical office. But there are parts of remote jobs that are just amazing, and there are parts that are not so good. And it's the same with the office scenario as well. But if I were to choose right now, I would gladly choose remote jobs, even knowing the cons of it. Like there are issues of loneliness. There is issue of you not being very proactive and dedicated towards your own career growth. But I think those issues can be managed if you work on it separately. But in terms of office jobs, like physical office jobs, there are issues like commute hours, and you can't really do anything about it. If you live far enough, you can maybe rent a place near the office, but then that would be expensive and it would introduce a whole new set of challenges. And there's obviously the question of moving away from your home. So if you have home in one part of the country and the company is offering you a really good job, but it's in the entirely different part of the country, you have no choice there. But with remote job, you can roam around. Like I've had like 2 3 vacations. I won't call it vacations, I call it staycations. It's a new fancy term that people use. So what you do, you spend typically your day just working the office hours, like 7 8 hours, whatever you work, and beyond that you can roam around in the morning, you can roam around in the evening. Like when I was in Dubai earlier this year for offsite, and that was my schedule there. I would explore places in the morning till like 11 12, and then come back and then get done with all the office work. Obviously, you tend to be more productive for some reason when you have the pressure of just exploring, and if you have the desire of visiting new places, you tend to be more productive. But that was my schedule there. Just go around to nearby places in the morning, then get done with work, and then evening and late nights were entirely dedicated to just going places, having fun. You can do all this in remote job. You can't do this in physical jobs. But I'm sure if you ask someone who likes going to office, they'll have their own reasons. So I think again it depends on what kind of person you are, and it differs from person to person.
Yeah, true. There was no point that I would disagree because I am also kind of a person that you are, working from home and
I
having.
wake up at 5 a.m. Pritesh. I'm not sure we are
That's
the
not
same
in
kind
all
of person.
times. I never compared you in terms of your lifestyle. Like, okay, we have totally different lifestyle. By the time you wake up, I just sleep at that time. Okay, so that is there. Interesting, Sumit. I just final question to you for the space is, um, what do you think? Like, what? How you see your future? What? How are things going? Is it like you go with the flow, or have you planned something interesting for your future upcoming?
So thanks to COVID, I don't really plan my life now. Used to have plans like I'll do X and then I'll do Y and then I'll do Z, but COVID came and just showed us how insignificant we really are, and we can't plan our lives that well. So right now I don't really have. I used to have 3 years, 1,000 day plans. I used to call them. So for 3 years, I would know like this is what I'm supposed to do in the next 3 years. But these days, I just plan like 3 4 months in terms of exactly what I need to do. Like I have a rough idea of what I need to achieve in the next year, but I don't like write it down somewhere or just plan and break it down into smaller steps. That I do only for like 3 4 months, maximum 6 months. But in a broader sense, I think future for me would be honing my skills. I got a job very recently. It's not even been 1 year now. So there are parts that I have recently discovered that I'm not good at in terms of job. So I want to be good at those parts and be very well-rounded as an employee. And then see, I have a couple of ideas that I want to try. I don't want to disclose them here. It's a secret for now. But there are ideas that I want to pursue on the side. But I see myself basically progressing in this career and just going with the flow of life and see where it goes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your future goals with us. Even some things are confidential, but I guess eventually people will know since you will be active on Twitter and you share everything that you have in your life on Twitter mostly. Obviously, some things are not supposed to be shared, and I guess you're not sharing them. But I hope things will go according to what you thought for your career and your life also. And happy Dhanteras. I forgot to
Oh no.
you know greet everyone with this and during the start of the space, but okay. Yeah, so we are at the end of the space with
Yeah, yeah,
Sumit.
go on.
Any last words you want to share, any last advices that you have for the people in any domain?
Just before I say anything, I just want to thank you for having me. I was on a break, but Pritesh made sure that I attended this space and answered all the questions that he had. So thank you for having me. Thank you for asking all these wonderful questions. I think people who are listening, if they want to get into Devil, they'll benefit immensely from the discussion that we've had so far. But a piece of advice, I don't think I'm qualified enough to advise anyone really. I'm very stupid kind of person. But I would suggest, don't blindly follow anyone, like irrespective of what position they are in, irrespective of what they have achieved. Take inspiration from them, try and inculcate their good habits in your own life, but don't blindly follow anyone. And especially if like I used to have this habit of putting people on pedestal, and I think it is very common and it hurts significantly. So don't do all this. Just acknowledge that everyone has their own separate journeys, and you're not racing with anyone. You are on your own path or on your own journey. So if you encounter someone that you feel inspired by, take their good bits, but don't try to become like them. Don't lose your originality. That's my advice.
And feel free to follow Sumit because he is kind enough to reply to all your questions if you have. And please don't go with that, that high thing. Just have something interesting to ask to whenever you DM someone. Else it will be ignored if I'm not wrong, Sumit, right?
Yeah, don't send hi and don't ask for laptops. These are the two common DMs that everyone gets, and you will not get a reply from most people if you send these. So just get to the point, ask your questions, and most people are kind enough to answer.
All right. Thank you so much, Sumit, for joining the space and making this wonderful evening for all the people who attended this particular space. And this was episode 8 of Humans of Tech, Becoming DevRel at Novu, a story of growth and challenges with Sumit.